California. With me, you know him as the #1 virtual screen troll on the internet, the one and only Omar Zeenni, Pro GK Academy. Omar, dude, you got to share with the audience before we got on air here what you just did to JT. I guess I just gave away the guest here.
Yeah, well, normally we do is I show up right on time or like a minute late, but I arrive fashionably late. So I always bring something to the table that's gonna at least make you guys happy that I was a second or two late. So I normally, respect the guests and respect everybody who's coming on and do something that's gonna be in the theme of where they're playing, where they're coaching. But since I'm a through and through Galaxy fan, through thick and through thin, and we're going through a lot of thick right now, I will say that I'm upset that JT plays for San Jose, and I wanted to show him a little bit of love, but a little bit of banter too, because I know he likes that. So I threw my Galaxy banner up, didn't get the reaction that I wanted. He was kind of like, all right, cool, dog, cool, whatever. And then I threw my Galaxy one out, my San Jose one on. So there it is.
Omar just gave it away right there. Our guest today, he is JT Marcinkowski, goalkeeper for the San Jose Earthquakes. I love the fact that I can say goalkeeper for the San Jose Earthquakes now, man. Pretty awesome, man. I know. Obviously, you spent a good amount of time in Reno after he signed as a homegrown after Georgetown and everything like that. And it's been a steady climb, and you've been progressing, really solidly there, man. And we've just been happy with the results that have been happening for you, man. Because for those of you guys who might not be familiar, JT's just a really awesome dude. We got to get to know you at MLS All-Star, when you were involved in that homegrown game a couple years ago. And dude, honestly, man, we really love seeing when young guys, are putting in the work and they start getting, their recognition.
No, yeah, thank you for having me on. It's always a super fun chat with you guys, and like Omar was saying, a little bit of banter. Started off hot, but no, we're good. And no, I think like Mike was saying, and the homegrown game, I think it was last year in Orlando. It was really fun catching up, and I think you guys are on a great channel, great podcast, and it's really insightful, and it's pretty cool to be on.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of what's been happening with you since we last saw each other all in person, all like 17 years ago it feels like now, with the way the world is and everything like that. But why don't you kind of just catch up everybody what happened? You obviously you spent a little bit of time in Reno, then got into some camps for the US with the 23s, trying to get ready for that Olympic qualifying, which was put on hold obviously, and then and now being a first teamer this year.
Yeah, no, it's been like you're saying, it's been a little bit of obviously this year's been so strange, but start off the year, played one game with Reno, and we were up in Tacoma, and then the next day flew down to Mexico for the qualifiers for the Olympics. And so we were down there for about 6 days in Guadalajara, and I think it was like a Thursday morning. So it was like right after everything happened with, I think, the NBA. So the NBA canceled a few games. The next morning, we were like about to leave for training, and then coordinator came in and was like, "Oh,
did you just freeze up?"
And kind of everything happened. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you now.
All right, cool. Yeah, everything happened so fast. We were on a flight home that next day, and kind of didn't go in the facility again until late May, I think. And so from very beginning of March until end of May, maybe like first week of June, just completely on our own. So a lot of working out on our own. We had like a little bit of a garage gym set up, so that was interesting. There was like a local park that we would go to, and my roommates and I would go and kick around and try to stay fit the best we could. And then got ready for Orlando, went down to Orlando on like June 24th, and we were there for about six and a half weeks. Played pretty well there, came home and had a bit of a rough stretch kind of the first month or so, and the past month has been much better. I think we've kind of found our rhythm, and the team has been looking great, and hopefully we can finish the season on a high and make our way into the playoffs.
I mean, dude, the craziest thing is, like, when you were just talking about like you being in Guadalajara and you guys are ready to go out there for the qualifiers, And they're like, yeah, guys, you're not going out there at all. In fact, you're going back. I mean, Omar, what were you doing when the quarantine hit like that? Were you also in Mexico getting ready to play in a CONCACAF qualifier?
No, I wish. I mean, that'd be ideal. I probably was doing a qualifier in FIFA, so I was probably doing my little setup here in my career mode. And that's as close as I got to CONCACAF Champions League. But and I was playing with Galaxy, just want you guys to know, just for the record. But no, real quick, I want to tell a story about last year, Mike. I remember when we saw JT in Orlando, and JT, I never actually posted about it, but for everyone listening, like to me, it was just like a really great perception and the epitome of what goalkeeping is, the highs and the lows. And I think it was in that generation Adidas. I'd probably way back then, but it was the homegrown.
Yeah.
And I know you guys split, three of you guys. You guys split 30 minutes, and then I think you got the last 30, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was literally sitting right behind the goal, and I think you got a pass back. I think you gave a bad pass away. They countered you right away, and they scored. And again, there was a lot of people there too. Like it wasn't just, and it was, I think it was on TV as well. So there was a lot of people, and you're still relatively young, and obviously you want to make a name for yourself and all that. You can see this goal. And it looks, for me, I was like, oh man, poor guy, such a nice guy. And, I don't want this to be something that people look at it and his reputation is this, that, and the third. And then with like a minute left, you guys score. It's like 93rd minute, I think it was. You guys end up scoring. You guys tie it up 1-1. And then you go to PKs. So in my head, I'm like, oh, he's back. His name is clear now. Let's see what he does. Let's see where his mind is at. Can he continue the good name that he's already created for himself? And like, that was just like a little blemish. And you went into the PK shootout. You saved 2 PKs. And I think you guys ended up winning that. And then all your teammates went and celebrated with you. And I mean, Mike and I got a front row seat to that. And it was like a really good for me, like the epitome of what goalkeeping is, the highs and the lows. And I don't know if you remember, obviously you remember what happened, but can you kind of share to us, like, what was your thought process? Like after you conceded that goal within like 20 minutes, and then you were like the scapegoat for the loss, and now you're the hero for the win. So how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you explained it pretty well. I think so. I came in the last 30 minutes, and it was like a back pass that I got, took a touch my left, and I think I was just trying to clear it, like a missed clearance. I don't remember who we were playing. We were playing Chivas?
Yeah, I think it was Chivas. Yeah.
Chivas? Okay.
Yeah, they played it out wide, cross in, went to cut it out, hit my defender, then hit me, then like went in or something. It was weird. So I was pissed and kind of, I was disappointed because I know I should have done better. First of all with the ball, and then with cutting the ball out. So I was just like, I hope to get another chance, and just kind of wanted to stay mentally in at the last 15 minutes. Fortunately, we scored. And then, yeah, with PKs, I mean, ever since I was really young, I've always kind of took the mentality of PKs that like keepers have nothing to lose. Like we're not supposed to save it. I think it's your team wants you to get 1 or 2 just to make sure that you stay in it. But at the end of the day, it's all up to the attackers. And I think the first PK that was against me was their other keeper. And I think he blasted it over. And I was like, okay, well, after that, all right, you feel a little better, right? The second one came up, guessed the right way, and it was like to my left. And then so we were up like 2-0 already. Third one, it was to my right. Wasn't the best PK, but saved it. And then I think we scored the next one. So we won 3-0. And obviously it was really cool to win that PK shootout, but still a little pissed about the goal. And I mean, that's goalkeeping, you always try to keep yourself as equal as possible in that same line. And it's a roller coaster position, but you kind of just have to get through it mentally, and you're going to make mistakes, but it's kind of how you respond.
Yeah. And sorry, Mike, one last point about that. I think we talked about this, I think, on the podcast with one of the guests. We were talking about how a lot of the games that a goalkeeper makes a mistake in, but they win, no one ever remembers the mistake, but the only person that does is the goalkeeper, and it sticks with them. And it seemed like you were able to like relive that moment. And I didn't want to make you relive it, but I mean, if you played for the Galaxy, I wouldn't have made you do that. But because you played for San Jose, I wanted you to relive it. But no, I think, and we talk about it too, Mike. We talk about the Champions League final. I think it was Atletico versus Real Madrid, 2013, I would say, or 2014 maybe. And in that game, Casillas comes out for a ball. They header it over his head. And he looks like, again, kind of a washed up old guy. And everyone's saying, Casillas shouldn't be the number 1 for Madrid. All this stuff came to a head. And they tie it up 93rd minute. Ramos scores that header. They go to overtime. They win 4-1. And no one really ever talks about Casillas' mistake. I mean, most people talk about just, Bale scoring, Ronaldo scoring, and then the 94th minute goal. And no one ever talks about the mistakes. So it's like, those are like the ones you kind of wish for if you make a mistake and you still win, so that no one remembers it, but at least now you can internalize it and hopefully be able to, become better because of it.
Right.
One thing I actually want to bring up about that, it's really funny that you bring up those PK saves, because honestly, JT, one of the things that really impressed me about those PK saves is we're going to talk about the topic today, which is micro movements and body shift. And like, you were so smooth with your movement on PKs. So many goalkeepers are either it's grandiose movement one way and then they get nailed the other direction, or it's very, very jittery types movements or whatever. You're just so smooth in your shift. And we were talking about earlier, obviously, in regards to Allison Becker and Jan Oblak and guys like that, who are just efficient with their movement. So kind of delving kind of into this topic right here, like, what do we mean kind of by like a micro movement in your mind?
Yeah, I think for me, I think goalkeeping is so much like the little things. It's not like a huge step that's going to help you make the save. It's like the 2 or 3 short movements then to make sure you're in the right position. Because so many times I feel like people are out. And I catch myself doing this a lot as well. Like, you're out of position, and then you make the save. And you're like, oh, look at that. It was top hand. It was perfect. But then like you replay it and you're like, wait, I was just out of position. If I was 3 inches more to the left, I could probably catch that ball or make it clean. And I think it's just so much of making sure your angles are right, making sure that you're cutting on the angle, you're giving space, your crosses, your body position. There's so many things, that little tiny details that go into it that make the save so much easier than they like need to be, or so much harder if you don't do them.
Yeah. No, and I think, that's one of the things that, like, Omar, you're really big on this when you're breaking down your videos. And yes, we're going to give a shout out to your breakdown videos. I think you posted another one this morning, is that you make sure that people, you little highlight, you do those little arrows and highlight these little tiny movements, because I think a lot of times just a lot of kids just miss those, when they're watching the final action and they're watching a highlight, they see the final full movement, but they don't realize that little shift, that little body weight shift, or that slight adjustment that led to that final action.
100%. And I think, myself included, sometimes even as a young coach, not even while I was playing, but as a young coach, I would overlook that stuff. And you think about the recovery save, or they're getting back up after they give up a rebound and it's turning into this highlight. You can kind of get caught up in that. You kind of get stuck in that narrative of, sublime save. Oh my God, this guy's the best. But then you actually, take a step back and you peel back the curtain a little bit. You start realizing that guys like Casillas, who are a little bit on the shorter end, the reason why they're so good is because they're able to shift their feet and get to their spot. And those quick little movements get them into a position, whether it was the final save or the position to make that final save. And people don't see that until you actually slow it down and break it down. And I feel like when you look at those kind of guys and you realize why they are so successful, you watch more and more highlights, like adding them up, and you start noticing a theme and a trend. You can always say a goalkeeper made one good save, but then you actually look even further and you start realizing, oh my God, no, this is not just a luck. This is an actual skill. That's why we see guys like Buffon playing until they're 40 years old, because he's been able to fine tune those little micro adjustments, those little micro movements to get himself into the best position possible, to use the athleticism that he still has left in that tank. And then imagine him being that smart that he is now, using that while he still had athleticism. That's why he's one of the best that ever played.
Yeah. So basically, what Omar's saying right there, JT, is you got to play till you're about 40 years old. That's
hey,
that's
I'm
the goal.
all in for that. Yeah, sounds good to me.
No, but that's what we talk about, Mike. I think this is where we can kind of shift. The question leads to, why are goalkeepers, specifically goalkeepers, why are they so much better as they age? Why is it? Right. And I think that has a lot to do with the pre-movements, how you read the game, your comprehension of the game and how you see it. And then again, talking about not just our own trends and our own patterns and our technique and all that, but the game's patterns and the game's technique. That's why it's so important to the technique, the patterns of the opposing team, and understanding what the strikers, tendencies are and what they're going to try and do to get yourself into that best position. Like Lukaku is probably not going to shoot more often than not going to shoot with his right foot, coming down the left side. He'll probably cut into his right and then cut back to his left, his more favored left. So our position is, we're not going to overreact when he cuts into the right side on his right foot, because most likely he may not shoot it. So you're almost just calculating, and then he cuts back to his left, and you didn't lose position because you were already waiting for him to come this way. So I think, again, it's the watching the film and the IQ so that those movements aren't wasted movements, but calculated ones.
But and by the way, I think you brought up a really good point, Omar, in regards to that, because we're going to see a clip in a few minutes here in regards to a situation where I think it was Roldan and the Sounders against you guys, and what happened? Christian Roldan slipped on a banana peel or something like that. Like what happened in that situation, JT? I think the play I'm talking about. We're going to watch it, and then all of a sudden the ball. That's the weirdest dummy I've ever seen. By the way, I've never seen a guy just like flop to the ground to make a dummy, But no, I think you're right, Omar and JT. I'm sure you can attest to this. Is like, if you judge a play and you make an assumption, well, more often than not, a play's not going to go the way you expected it to go anyway, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's true, but I also think there's like Omar was saying about these older keepers and just experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be age, but the more games you play, the more situations that you're in. And I think young keepers, I think there's a very fine line between anticipation and guessing. Mm-hmm. I think you can anticipate shots really well. And I think the older that you get and the more situations that you're in, the trends that you see are, what's going to happen before it happens. And I think that's a lot different than just guessing to a side. So I think, for example, if, like Omar was saying, let's say Lukaku cuts in and that he tends to curl it with his left foot to the back post. You can start to cheat maybe 2 or 3 inches to that side and then tip it around the post because you've seen it so many times, and then just assuming he's just going to kick it to the far post. So I think that's a very fine line of kind of that experience in situations that happen in training, that happen in the games, that the more that you grow and the more situations that you put yourself in like that, the better they're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like one of the words that I use is calculated anticipation, right? It's just that we talked about it right there. You just did a good definition. Is not leaving yourself too vulnerable and susceptible for that near post one, because we've seen a lot of times. Let's say again, we use Lukaku, Messi, whoever it is who's left-footed. They come down that right side, they cut inside, and your defender sticks their leg up. And then again, Messi's watching us and realizing, okay, well, JT likes to cheat a little bit, and that's why he's made a lot of great saves to that far post. All right, you know what? I'll bait him and I'll cut a little bit. I'll show that I'm probably going to go far post. I'll start angling my body for that. But again, I'm going to try and put it right back across here where I can get him catching cheating a little bit. And I think one thing that I tell my goalkeepers all the time is I'm okay with you not taking risks, but take calculated risks, right? So if you're going to get scored on like that, don't make it so obvious, but really, really start playing chess with the striker. And I think that is where you allow yourself to really play instinctually, but with as much of an educated guess as you possibly can, so that at least if we do get scored on or we do make a save, we know exactly where to trace back and figure out why we made the save, what technical and tactical decision that we did that led up to that save. At the same time, too, okay, we got scored on, we conceded. What technical and tactical decision could I fine tune and refine so that I don't get beat or I don't get put back across my body? So I think it's super important. It's a work in progress. And I think JT's made a really good point, is that through experiences, through goals conceded, through, saves, you figure out those things and you fine tune. But you have to be paying attention to it. I think a lot of young goalkeepers just go through the motions sometimes in training and just go, okay, and I'm going to session, blah, blah, blah. They don't really think about it. But when you actually start thinking about stuff, that's when you start making strides.
Yeah. That's a great point right there, Omar. And JT, I want to bring up this Roldan basically because I think the whole audience who was listening to this earlier was probably like, dude, we need to see what you were talking about right here. So maybe walk us through this play right here, because I think it's a really good example in regards to what you were talking about, anticipating movement, but yet not biting on it and then being able to react at that last minute right here. So obviously here's the ball. Here's the weird play. I mean, if that's a dummy, that's awesome. I've never seen that before. Then across, and then here. See, it's just a slight adjustment by your body, which I love. Like, you don't fly across to the back post. It's just a slight adjustment so that you can get just enough of a touch to redirect that ball. And then obviously the recovery movement right there is solid. Walk us through this kind of right here.
Yeah. So I think it's Christian, when he's coming down the wing, right there, I see that Jordan's coming in. And I kind of tell I think it's Nick Lima, our right back, that he was coming in there. And I actually didn't see Nico Lodero. He was the one who ended up getting on the ball. But yeah, I think once it gets past Jordan and Nick right here, I try to set, and I saw I was getting past to go to the next spot. And then as soon as Nico's on the ball, I just try to set as quick as I can to then give myself at least a chance there to make a save. But yeah, I mean, hit it back to the, like back across his body, like we were just talking about, and didn't hit it totally clean, but kind of got fortunate on that aspect. And when the shot came in, I think it was too far for me to catch it. So I was just trying to tip it kind of out of danger and make sure that I didn't hit it back into the middle here. Yeah, unfortunately it kind of went out for a corner, I think. So
by the way, is that the only way that you can stop Jordan Morris from running? Is just by just
I think there, to be honest,
Lima didn't make contact with him, right? He just slipped.
Yeah, no, I think Jordan slipped into Nick.
Okay.
Because those two are some of the paciest people in the league. That's for sure.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I absolutely love this right there. By the way, and the players that we're talking about here, Nicholas Ladero and stuff like that. I mean, even a bad hit by a Nicholas Ladero is still a pretty clean hit by most people, So, Omar, anything you want to add to this play right here?
No, I think it's I mean, it was a great save, but I think he did a really good job. JT did a really good job of going. Again, we talk about progressions, Mike. So two things. One's the progressions. He went through. He respected the first shot. Then after that first shot went through, he went all the way across to his post. And then once he got to that post, you could see like he got his feet into the ground, which allows him now to attack those lateral lines. And we talked about it with I think it was Cisniega against Portland, or I forget who it was, but he kept progressing his set forward and never actually got set. And if we actually saw Navas this past week too, against Man U, the goal against Rashford, he's coming forward towards the ball and never got his feet set. So then as the shot came, oh, sorry, someone just called me. But yeah, he never got his feet set, so he didn't have an opportunity to step and push. And I think JT did a really good job of quickly adjusting and then got his feet set. And I feel like you didn't bite off more than you could chew. You took as much ground as you could take, and once you got that movement in, then you were like, okay, I'm cool here. And then now you're able to attack those lines because you got that prep set in.
Yeah, and this is a good example in regards to micro movement as opposed to trying to gain too much ground. You basically played it conservative. You're like, I'm better off setting right here and being able to get some movement rather than trying to gain ground and cover a little more angle.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, as you're replaying that, I think I hopped a little bit too high on that one. My set position was a little bit, because I can see when he's about the ball's in the air and I'm still in the air.
Yeah.
But that's definitely one of those things I'm trying to work on and make sure that, because if he hits it a little bit cleaner, I think my steps might be a little too late. But fortunately didn't go in. So. Yeah.
If it had gone in, it wouldn't have been played on this show. I'll tell you that right now. We're not going to be doing that to you right there.
It's all right. I can take it.
No, it's funny that you say that, though, JT, because it always seems like whenever we get guests on the show, they're the most critical about their plays, and I think as a pro, I think you represent that like. If you want to get to that next level, that next echelon, that U.S. national team level, that starting, all-star goalkeeper in the league level, you have to be critical of every single play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's a fine line, because I think if you're too hard on yourself, then you never get the chance to to allow yourself to be successful. Because if you're always just harping on yourself and not allowing yourself to be like, okay, that was a good save, then it kind of gets monotonous and you get too far down in the dumps. But then you also can't be too high on yourself where every save you make, you're like, oh, that's perfect. I don't need to change anything. So I think there's a fine balance of allowing yourself to recognize that you made a good save and you can get better here and there. And also allowing yourself to, okay, I made a mistake, but why? It's not the end of the world. It's okay, I just need to change one thing, or I need to change two things. Like, for example, when we played Portland 3 games ago, like made a really bad mistake, just coming out for an easy ball, let slip away. They scored 2-0. Game was kind of over. And it's like, okay, then how do I respond from that? And how do I make sure that, take the information for what it is, learn from it, and then move on?
Yeah,
it was pouring rain though, torrential rain. I will say that. Okay.
No, not much of an excuse. Not much of an excuse.
I know.
Dude, I would have used that excuse. Are you kidding me? I would have been like, it's like, dude, have you been up there? Do you know how much rain they have? Condition? No one should have to play in that. I do want to bring this up, and one of the things that comes up a lot of times is kids think that they have to move. They have to move. They have to move. JT, right? Can't a body shift just be just as efficient as a movement of the feet?
Sorry, I lost you for a little bit, like during the middle of that, but I think I got the gist of it. Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily have to like do anything to be in the right position. Like if you feel like you're in the right position, or if you feel like the striker is about to shoot, then just stop. Because the more steps that you take, the more out of position you're going to be. Even if like during the whoever leads Wolves game this past week, it was right at the end of the first half, and Wolves were on a counterattack. They cut it back, and the Leeds keeper just stopped, and he just set, and he was totally out of position. But since he set, the ball came right to him, and he made a really good save. But if he were to try to make his way farther across the goal and be in the right position, then it would have went in. So it's funny, whenever the striker just is about to shoot, you have to set, even if you might feel like you're out of position. And I think that's a great example of less is more sometimes.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we talk about it. We talk about it, Mike, with crossing a lot of times. Sometimes no movement is the best movement, and I think that is when it comes into play as well for goalkeeping, is on angles, cutbacks, whatever it is. You need to know what your strengths are, and then play those movements and make those movements happen to really solidify and allow those strengths to come to the forefront. And I think we talk about Meslier, the guy's 6'6", I think he is for Leeds. Big guy. So for him, he probably says, you know what? I don't have to move as much as somebody who may be at 6 feet, because I could cover going back across myself. At the same time, I can cover because I'm so damn tall. I don't have to take that step. I can literally just fall, and I have my reach covering there. So I think young goalkeepers that are listening, even, goalkeeper coaches, myself included, is let the goalkeepers, find the best positioning for themselves. And like I've sometimes overcoached it, where I said, hey, on my shot right there, you made the save, but you were really close to your near post. But in my head, I'm like, now that I'm saying it, I'm like, oh my God, but what if they already know that they're so much better stepping off their left foot, dive into that top corner because they love using their top hand. At the same time, too, if I hit it back near post, they're close enough where they can get their right hand back down. Right hand down here, right hand up here. That's their strong suit. So for me, it's like, okay, damn. I think they've been able to now show me that they know what to do to have their strengths come to the forefront and be able to use that. So I think that's sometimes too where we can kind of overcoach the positioning, when some goalkeepers have been able to manipulate their positioning to really allow their strengths to, work for them.
Yeah, I want to bring this up right here because you were bringing up corners right here. I want to bring up this clip right here, JT, and if you can walk us through this.
Mike, you're the king of the transition, man. I swear. Well, you are very, very good.
Well, it's really. It's funny, by the way. So JT, so I've taken my comedy show online now because of the way the world is now, and so I sent Omar a clip of it, and he's like, "This just sounds like Inside the 18." He's like, "This just doesn't sound any different." He's like, "I'm sorry, the voice just sounds exactly the same. It just sounds like you're doing the same thing, just not talking about soccer." But I want to bring this up right here. Can everybody see this clip right here? This is I think in the 24th minute, and you were just talking about just not doing anything, right, JT?
Yeah.
So this is a ball. I think it's a header by Rose, and yes, you shift across here, boom, but you don't really do much. I mean, you're just in the position. You don't try to make a meal out of this, and you just get that outside hand out and just get the cover. And that's a great save right here. So let's just try to play it in real time so everyone can kind of see it. Look at that focus. Shift touch. Simple. And again, people say, oh, that's an incredible save, but you see how efficient that is, right?
Yeah, and what we're saying, I kind of did take a step forward right away there, but it was a good ball and a good run. They did a good job picking our defender to make sure he gets free. But I think it's just it's one of those things where it was a good kind of perfect height for me, and it was kind of quick reaction, and fortunately could tip it over. But we play them on Saturday, so we got to make sure that doesn't happen again.
I hope they're not watching right now and hearing like what you're talking about. They're just, it's like Dad said, actually the Whitecaps, they were actually listening to the podcast, and guys, scouting report on JT here is he's going to stay big in this situation. We talked about this though, right, Omar?
Yeah, no, and I actually have a question for you, JT. I was talking to somebody doing like my off-season series filming, and we were doing crosses, and one of the guys brought up that his goalkeeper coach mentioned to him that when the ball's in the air, if you have an idea that it's probably gonna, oh my God, sorry, I'm getting like the most
so
calls
popular,
I've ever gotten. No, it's my dad.
Okay.
So he mentioned that his goalkeeper coach said when the ball gets served in the air, don't even worry about it hitting heads. If it's going to go to like a certain height, don't even worry about hitting heads. Have an idea of where that ball is going to fall and just take your body there. It's like, he's like, my coach told me to get to my spot early. And I was like, well, I could see that, but you just never, I mean, again, it's scouting report. If you know a guy's going to jump through the roof, you're probably not going to go, you're not going to cheat that much. But for you, do you feel like you go through those progressions, or have there been times where you kind of just say, you know what, I know where this ball's going. I'm taking my feet, and I got to get there. I got to get this major movement out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point, and it's something that I need to continue to work on in my game is crosses and continuing to be confident and come out for more of them, I would say. But it's something I think that just you get more comfortable over time with. But with the pace that these guys are whipping the balls and the runs as well, it's tough just to try to get to a spot when there's guys running in and like you were saying, I mean, you're playing against guys who are very good in the air, big dudes, and they're physical. And so much of it, I think, is situational. It's hard to make like a blanket rule. But for me personally, I just try to, at the end of the day, if it's anywhere around the 6, I try to go out and get it. But also it's being a bit conservative and letting my defenders defend sometimes as well.
Yeah. But that's, well,
go ahead, Omar.
No. I think JT, the point he was trying to make is that not so much to come for the ball, but it was more so getting across and getting set. Like we kind of saw right now with the Ladero shot, right? That went all the way across. You went through the progression of, because it was on the ground, right? You had to respect that first shot that was at the PK spot. And when Roldan missed that ball and again to the far post, then you kind of slowed yourself down, and then you made that little extra push and an extra movement to get to that far post. And when we're talking about crossing, his point was when that ball is being served in and you have an idea that it's going to miss some people, and you know that most likely instead of going through those progressions, the IQ is telling you, I just need to get from point A on my near post all the way to my far post to give myself a chance to get set and then push. Do you feel like, I mean, again, is that IQ? Is that, experience? What do you think that is?
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% just like reading the game. It's taking pictures before the cross even happens to see where the runs are. And then if you know that nobody's at the back post and you know that it's going to go right through, it's all right, time to get on your horse and make those few 2 or 3 cross steps to get to the back post and set early. But that comes from seeing thousands of crosses, seeing a lot of corners in game situations and knowing where the runs are. My goalkeeper coach makes it a very strong point of always checking where the guys are on the box before the cross comes in. He was like, you can't just focus on the ball because there's so much more that's happening than just the ball coming in. You have to know where the guys are. You have to make sure that our guys are marking them, make sure they're in the right spots. They're whatever it may be. But you have to be more aware than just the ball.
That's sorry, Mike. One last point. I don't keep.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I was.
But I thought that was.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought that was a hell of a point, though. I think that's super important, and I think again, just talking to someone who's continuously seeing it and doing it, those micro movements are a product of the micro pictures that you're taking as well. And I think again, we only saw one clip here, so I'm pretty sure that whoever's watching, as long as you guys can refer back to the clip we're talking about, that far post shot. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think, JT, what you saw is, again, a situation where, okay, I got a runner coming in, I got a runner at the far post.
Do you want me to pull that back up?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. But
while I say, is that whether it was a counterattack, I don't know how the whole play developed, but whether it's a counterattack in situations, you start realizing, okay, I've seen this picture before, and And our triggers as goalkeepers is to, see, look at your hand, right? Your hand is pointing to that far post. You already have an idea that it's visual, verbal, right? You give that visual cue, that verbal cue, and then that visual cue of, look, I need someone covering here as well. I think, again, it's those micro pictures that you're taking prior and the scanning of the field. So now you're able to understand, okay, if this ball doesn't get to this guy and he misses it, I know for a fact, because of what I saw earlier in the little pictures that I took, this ball is going to go to the far post because they got a runner. And then that, again, it's an educated decision. You already know for a fact that ball could potentially be shot at the far post. So that movement is that much more precise and that much more calculated. So I think, again, like you said, the ability to really enhance your vision and not just be tunnel vision and just see what's happening in front of you, but rather the scoping the entire play out 3-4 seconds prior. And I think that we talk about it too, is like we do a lot of in possession, out of possession stuff, right? Your team is in possession, you're stepping up to build the play. And now as you're recovering, can we backpedal, see the ball, but also allow our mind and our body, or excuse me, our shoulders and our eyes to shift over here, take a quick picture, come back here, take a quick picture, come back here. I think, again, that's kind of the idea that what I'm trying to get at, a little wordy here, but essentially what I'm trying to say is exactly what you just said is you take those images, take those micro images, but at the same time too, that is going to help you make the final save because you know where those runs are coming from and you know where your footwork needs to go once the progressions are taken care of.
It's all good.
And
Omar,
scene.
You got to take a bow, Sir Patrick Stewart, right there.
You got
so if you guys want to see Omar in Hamlet on the West End, it'll be no. I wanted to bring this up because Dallas J was talking about this, which I'd never heard before. JT, is he says that when he decides that he's not going to, when he starts approaching a ball and realizes he's not going to get there, and he retreats and drops line, that he actually takes his eye off the flight of the ball and does a check of the runners instead. Is that something that you've ever heard before, or been taught before, or anything like that?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me Dallas does that because he's one heck of a keeper and he's super smart. He's very like cerebral the way he plays. But I think it's everyone kind of has their own little niche and they kind of do things a little bit differently. That's why I think goalkeeping such a cool position because there's so many ways to kind of do it, and not every way is right, not every way is wrong, but sometimes people just do things differently. So I don't know if I would say it's something that I would think about like in the game, like during a flighted ball to be conscious of making sure I look right away or real quick. But I think it's something that is important, and it's something, even if you don't do it maybe when the ball is in the air, you have to know before the ball is even kicked.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that way right there, because my concern was like kids would hear like what Dallas said, and then like they'll just go into games and it's like that ball's going outside the 6, and they'll just stop looking at the ball and they'll just start looking around everywhere, and then they're like, well, I just heard a pro does that. Like I thought that's what you do, like because kids are so literal, and that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, JT, is because kids are so literal. Like you say micro movement, or you say, taking a big step or whatever, they take that as literal as possible. Like micro movement. Okay, cool. Like I'll move like that. It's like, no, I didn't mean like tiny. I meant like, a smaller adjustment. Or if like I say, take a big step, like they extend all the way across and stuff. So how do we work with youth keepers so that like they understand like what we mean by that and what you as pros are doing in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing for me, and I still do all the time, is allowing yourself to make mistakes in training. Like allowing yourself, okay, if you overcorrect sometimes, like realizing that you did that, realizing you took too big of a step or too big of a hop, and then being aware the next time, okay, let's not do that, and allowing yourself to do something different. And then once you find something that works, like for example, I know like Hugo Lloris, like on crosses, he always retreats back to his line really deep and then works from there because he's so quick. But sometimes that doesn't work for someone else. But like at least you should try it. Like allow yourself to make mistakes and allow yourself not just to try to make every save in training, because then it's like, okay, then you're not getting better. Like sometimes the best way to learn is to fail and then learn from that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the mistake aspect right there, and also trying about that, because Omar, I know you've been big about that. It's like, you're not going to know how big a movement you need to make or how small a movement you need to make until you start getting comfortable in those situations, and going through those scenarios and going through those reps is going to teach you what your body profile works with.
Yeah, I think like JT just said, it's one thing to look at a goalkeeper that is similar to your size. But at the same time, too, it's like, what strengths do those goalkeepers have, and what strengths do I have as well that I could potentially, like you said, not being so literal, but like what could I potentially take from them, and why is Lloris dropping off to his line? And then like you said, you realize, oh wow, okay, he likes to buy time because he has great reactions, so that extra second is going to help him out. So then you start realizing, oh my God, okay, so maybe that's something that I should be doing. And like we say, then you try it. And like JT said, is that, okay, well, I dropped off. Last time I scored, conceded, I was falling backwards and I slapped the ball into my own goal. Okay, maybe next time when I drop off, my weight shouldn't go back into my shoulders. Maybe I lean a little bit more forward. So now you're just fine tuning the little things that I think will help improve your game, versus taking it so literal and saying, well, Lloris did it. Why is it not working for me? Ask the why. And then once you're able to ask the why, you can answer those questions yourself. You're going to know yourself a lot better. And I think a lot of kids, they don't understand that goalkeeping is an investment in yourself over the years. And that's how the experience adds up. And if you keep on trying, not to deny, but if you keep on wanting the answers, or like the literal answer we talk about all the time, like the equation, and you get one formula, and if you want to just use that one formula for that equation, it's only going to work for that equation. But when you put into a different scenario with a little bit different variables, numbers are a little bit different, and you use that same use that same formula for that equation, it's not going to work. So understanding that you need a lot of different formulas so that you can answer a lot of different equations, but you have to ask that from yourself first before you can get it from a coach.
That's a good point right there in regards to asking that first from yourself. Because I think, JT, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I think a lot of young goalkeepers make. And I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, is that they don't self-reflect first. They wait for the coach to tell them what they did wrong or what they did right.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And it's like Omar was saying, it's investing in yourself. It's putting in that time and putting in that practice. One thing my dad always said when I was growing up is, you always hear something like practice makes perfect, right? But he was like, for basketball, for example, you could throw the ball off the backboard 1,000 times and it wouldn't help you at all get better at shooting. So he always used to say, perfect practice makes perfect. So do the little things right when you're training it, and that'll eventually over time accumulate to making the big save or being in the right position at the right time for a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that he said that, because it is just a marathon. It's a marathon, and it's not a sprint. And I know how difficult it is for all you young kids out there, because you see Hugo Lloris make this play and you're like, why can't I do this right now? Well, maybe you can, 15 years from now when you play for Spurs too. Maybe you will. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you have to realize, Lloris couldn't do that at 14 maybe. And maybe it took him, 6, 7, 8 years before it all kind of clicked together. And I kind of want to bring this up right now, JT, and actually let's pull this clip up right now, because we've been talking about small adjustments in regards to, out of possession and shot stopping situations. I want to talk about it in possession too, because I think that's something that's also a big issue with a lot of youth keepers, is that they, let me pull this up here. Let me get out of here. What did I just do? Hold on a second here, guys. I'm clearly great at this.
Mike, I'll add on to that point while you figure it out.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think, you got it?
Yeah. I got it. Go ahead. Keep going.
My mind just completely went blank. I was watching you struggle, and now I'm struggling. Forgot what I was going to say.
All right. Well, let me pull up this. What
were we talking about? Tell me real quick. What were we talking about before? My mind completely went blank.
We were just talking about that now in possession. Small movements in possession, can affect everything as opposed to too big a possession. So here's a play, JT. Basically, it's a simple pass back, back to you right here. And now there's chase coming from your left-hand side. And as you see the chase, what a lot of kids do is they start dribbling to the end. They start dribbling to the sideline, right? And they go, oh, well, this player's coming at me. I got to get as far away from him as possible. And instead, what you do is just a slight adjustment of your shape, right? Just so that you've now shielded the ball, but now you still have a clear angle for a great lifted ball to Espinoza right here, which is freaking amazing right there. Look at that ball. And that all wouldn't have been possible if you had panicked and started dribbling all the way to the sideline, right?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, every coach is different, and I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, I think, I mean, when the ball's on your foot and like you have it in control, then the whole field's open to you. And as soon as it kind of leaves it here and you don't have an idea of where you're going with it, then that panic kind of sets in. But the more you, and
Oh, just freeze up. JT?
sometimes you act like you're under control and maybe in your, oh, you there?
Yeah,
There we go. Sorry. And I was saying, like, sometimes if you just act like you're under control and maybe in your head, you're like, oh my God, this guy's sprinting at me, but if you just act calm, then the rest of the team kind of just goes with your decision that you make. So like for this one, I saw, to be honest, like it was a little bit of lucky of a ball that it got over him, but I saw that if you play a little farther, that I couldn't play Nick, my right back here, because the guy was coming, because he's a little bit higher on the screen. And so I knew I was always going to go to Christian. And he made a really good run and kind of the ball found him in a good spot. But like you were saying, if kids start to dribble, like if I were to take a big touch away from the guy pressing me, I mean, at the end of the day, the attacker's probably faster than I am. And one way that like a coach told me one time is, you know, even though keepers love to, like, especially me, I always think that, oh, I could play in the field and possession and all that. The field players do that all day long. Like they're built to play possession. So like they probably know what you're going to do with the ball even before you know, because they've seen that situation 1,000 times. And so for me, it's just making a quick decision that even if it might not be the right one, just you have to make a decision and not flip flop in your brain, because that's when you kind of panic, and the more choices that you start to go in your head, the longer it takes for you to make one.
But by the way, you just brought up something actually that was really fascinating to me, because Omar, I don't know how you feel about this, but like I would not be able to tell based on your body language that there was any panic there whatsoever. You seemed really cool, calm, and collective. Omar, did you sense the panic? Did you see, a Michael Madgett type situation where he'd be freaking out and just striking the ball?
No, I think, and it goes back to, again, we kind of peeled it back a little more. It's prep touch, right? And I think the vision of you already see what's in front of you, and you're already, okay, I'm getting this ball back. It shouldn't be I'm getting this ball back, then I'm looking. It should be I'm getting this ball back. I already know what I saw, the picture that I saw prior. So now I know where to take my prep touch. And then once that prep touch is right in front of you, you can keep your head up because that ball's in enough distance now where all you have to do is worry about where you're going to pick out your pass. And I had a young goalkeeper, 9 years old, this past week, and we were doing passing. And
wait, you worked with a 9-year-old?
Yeah, another 9-year-old that I got. Doesn't know how to pass very well.
Oh, JT, I have to see an Omar Zeenni 9-year-old session.
Yeah,
he's breaking down the video film to this 9-year-old.
No, I don't bring the film for this kid, but no, and then his like prep touch, he keeps getting the ball stuck underneath him, and he can't look up, and he doesn't know what to do. And I was like, I should have used better words, but I was like, look, if you're in a situation where you keep on doing that, and I'm the opposing coach, I'm looking at my striker, I'm pulling him over, I'm saying, look, when that guy gets the ball, he is going to panic. He doesn't know what the hell he's going to do. You go chase after him and you go grab that ball. And I was like, do you want that? Do you want that on your scouting report? Do you want people to be talking about you like that? And it was like,
this poor 9-year-old.
I was literally just thinking to say.
He turns 10 pretty soon. So I mean, but I'm just getting him ready for the real man world. But I was just telling him, like, in those words, I was like, you want to be in a position where you bring calm to your team. We talk about the ducks in a pond, and we talk about it. They're in the pond, and their exterior looks so calm, but underneath they are panicking. They are going quick because they're moving their feet fast. So as goalkeepers, we have to do that. Where the extremities, the outside of us, we have to look calm. In our mind, it could be a little bit of panic, but we have to look calm because we are essentially, like I said today on my Instagram, is like we're the quarterback of the team. And if the quarterback looks panicked, boom, the whole team's mentality, the whole team's composure, everything goes out the window. So you got it. They take after your leadership. And if you look panicked and you look worried, everyone else will be worried as well. So like you said, you kind of have to play that role, but you have to make sure that you bring that out and then the team will follow in that way.
No, yeah, and I think to further that point, it was when I was in academy. At the time, Chris Leach, who's now the technical director for the Quakes, or works in the front office, he was helping out with the academy as soon as he, maybe a few years after he retired. And we were building out the back one day, and he told me, like, pulled me over, and he was just like, you have to look calm on the ball. Because exactly what Omar was just saying. If I'm an attacker and I see that you're fumbling over it and you're nervous, then he was like, I'm just going to sprint at you, because then you're going to get even more nervous. So he was like, the calmer you look, then the least likely that they're going to start to press you, because after 2 or 3 times of them running at you and you just play right around them, they're going to be pretty pissed off and be like, all right, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's so much, there's so much body language and kind of just what you're presenting to the whole field really matters.
Yeah, and I think, one thing, getting back to kind of, subtle movements and everything like that, JT, that I kind of want to bring up too, is just that, like, less is more right there in that situation too. Like, one prep touch and then based on their scanning, making a decision is so much better than 3 touches to try to escape, because like you were saying, your chances are that guy's got an extra gear that you might not have. Like, no disrespect or anything like that. Like, he's playing a certain position, you're playing a certain position. Probably the chances that he's playing that position at that level is because he's got that extra gear, of pace there. And I think that's a humbling thing that I think a lot of kids, like you were talking about, the ego kind of gets in the way. It's like, oh, well, I can get through this. I can get through this, rather than just being logical. And I think there's such a fear, I think, of kids right now, of people thinking that they gave up and panicked and made a clearance decision, when in reality that wasn't a clearance decision. That was a calculated decision on your part.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I think that in the Sounders game as well, like, I'm saying all this stuff, and then if someone watches back the game, I gave away one ball right to Jordan Morris trying to play out. And it's like, mistakes are going to happen, but you have to, like, learn from them and move on. It's not, I wish everything I was saying worked perfectly every time, because that would be awesome, but it's not like that. And you're going to fail sometimes, and just, you have to limit them. There's a difference between, making mistakes and then learning from them, and then continuing making the same mistake.
Yeah. I want to bring this up right now too, is because we were talking about Allison Becker earlier, and I think one of the things that I really impresses me about Allison Becker is that he's so good at being comfortable and calm and being very efficient in his movements in transition, where a lot of keepers, they freak out in transition, and that's when you start getting kids either retreating or staying too high or any sort of thing like that. JT, are you frozen? You there?
Yeah, I think he is.
Did we lose JT?
Oh no!
Oh,
no,
wow,
there
it's
you
like you
go.
would.
We're good.
Dude, it literally looked
You were
like
napping.
it looks like you had fallen under a spell. And I just been watching Lovecraft Country, so I was just like thinking of magic.
Sorry,
and I was
the
like,
Wi-Fi went out real quick.
oh,
No, we're good.
it's all good. We've by the way, the last I've been editing today, and there's been some Wi-Fi issues around the country the last couple of weeks. Hasn't there, Omar?
Yes,
But,
there has, man. Everyone's on Zoom, so I think that's where all the Wi-Fi is going. But I got some extenders. Mike would be happy.
All right,
I
congratulations,
bought an
dude.
extender right here. Google Home.
Wow, that's awesome. So now the Wi-Fi connection goes farther. Is that what it does?
Yes, crazy. It came out of the inside the 18 budget. It was wild.
Oh my gosh. Well, we got to put that budget sheet together soon. So remind me.
We do. Good transition as always.
We'll have to put that in there right there.
Mike, one thing what I'm going to do is the next date I go on, I'm going to bring you in. And if anything kind of gets awkward, I need you to transition me out of that conversation. You got to figure something out. Like, you should be honest that everyone's trying to make money these days and do crazy jobs. And I think that's one for you. It's like, look, you're on a bad date. You're an awkward person. Don't worry. I will listen. I will transition you from conversation to conversation. Mike.
Dude, that's a sketch right there. Like, it's just like, and it's run like a podcast. It's like, who's that guy with the headphones and a microphone next to you? He's like, oh, don't worry about that. That's just the co-host. It's like, what? Wait, what? You brought I'm going to write that down. That's a funny sketch.
Not a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
When the world opens back up again and we can actually get together in person, I'm definitely gonna want to. What were we talking about? JT asleep?
No,
Oh no. Transition. Did you hear all that I was talking about with like Allison and stuff like that?
No.
Okay. So basically, what I was saying is like what I love about Allison is that when he's in transitional play, losing possession, a lot of young kids, that's when their movements become very big because they panic, and so they either play too high and bite at a play, or they retreat literally all the way back to the goal line. You know, JT, why don't you talk about how important it is to be subtle with your movements in transition and make sure that you're flowing with the counter, basically.
Yeah, no, I think.
Did you freeze again?
I got to screenshot
make
this.
sure you're connected. To make sure you're connected with your back four is before the transition happens. So that way you're not having to make such a long run or such a long drop when that counter does happen, right? When I was last year sometimes, and John Bush was my goalkeeper coach for a camp, and Bushy was talking about there was a long ball out and it was down the left wing, and I was close to going for it, and I retreated back. And he was like, before the ball even comes, look where your position is. And I was a little bit too far in the middle of the field. And he was like, if you're 4 yards more to your right and you're a little bit more connected to your back line, he was like, you come out and clear that right away. No problem, no questions asked. But it's just like, even before that transition happens, I'm sure if you were to watch Allison kind of from of a camera behind him, the little movement that he does throughout the game, I'm sure he's connected with his back four. I'm sure he's stepping, he's dropping, he's moving left to right. And then when that counter does happen, you don't have to make such a long movement. And it's much more subtle or much more composed.
Yeah. I think that's actually really a great point that you just brought up right there, because I wasn't even considering that fact, is that if your movements if it's little, you never have to make a grandiose movement, because you never have to make never have to make a huge adjustment, because
right.
you're always on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you will. I know sometimes it's, that's what the game calls for, is that you have to make a long run back, or you have to make a long run forward and go intercept the pass. But, I mean, Neuer does that great. He's great at reading the game. He's great at coming out. He's been known as the sweeper keeper. People like to call it, but it's more of just he's in the right position. He knows what he's good at. He knows that he's good at reading the play. And so, I mean, the amount of goals he's probably saved and the amount of counterattacks he's saved, and he makes it look so easy when he does it. Like yesterday during the game, he was between him and Alaba, and he like thigh trap volley over the coming attacker, and it looks so easy. Or he comes out and heads the ball right to his defender. And I mean, it just shows how composed he is and how smart he is at reading the game.
Yeah. I think that's like we were talking about earlier with a goalkeeper who looks panicked. You can switch your tactics. If I'm the opposing team, I'm going to switch my tactics to really expose that insecurity that you may have on the ball, or panic on dead ball situations, whatever it is. But at the same time, too, if you're very, very good and very calm and efficient at what you do, whether it's against sweeper keeper or reading of the game, that is going to influence the opposing team as well. It's like, look, we've tried a lot of times trying to get that ball over the top. It's not working. Let's put the ball down. Let's play more of a, we call half court in basketball, right? But it's like play within the thirds, instead of just trying to bypass and trying to play over the top. It's like, if you can influence that, and you can influence the scouting reports that they have to change their tactics because of all the strengths that you bring to the table, I think that's the goal now in the modern game.
Yeah, I want to say something about that too. Is that Omar, I think the play that I think really represents this to me recently, just thinking of Alisson Becker, is last year in the Premier League. It was the Bournemouth play. I think it was, whether was it Bournemouth or was it Southampton, where he stayed high, and he because they countered quick, he was able to stay high, make a slight shift of his body, and be able to make the play right at the top of his 18. Do you know the play I'm talking about? Do either of you guys know what I'm talking about? It was like a double save situation.
Like a 1v1?
Yeah. Yeah, it was in a one. It was a 1v1.
I think I may have seen it, yeah. And I think that's where, I think we talk about Ederson, Allison, and I think JT made a good point, is that you're seeing so many situations where they're influencing it directly so that it doesn't turn into a full attack or doesn't turn into an actual situation where now they're defending in their bottom third because he came out and ended the situation before he even had a chance to grow. And there's so many situations too. I did a breakdown of Ederson versus Leeds. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And there was a situation they were driving the ball down the right side. And you could see his leg like twitch a little bit because he was ready to read the situation. And situation there didn't happen that way, but the guy ended up holding the ball instead of crossing it. But I slowed that down and I showed people, I was like, when you see a goalkeeper whose IQ, so many ideas are running through his head. But at the same time, too, even though those little minor decisions, he's not going all out on those minor decisions where he gets, becomes vulnerable, he loses his stability, or he loses his balance. But he's so calculated that all you have to do is take a little bit of a step. And if that ball did come through, he's going to win it. But because it didn't go through and that step was so small and calculated, he was able to retract that step and then get back to the angle. So I think it's so important to not just watch situations of the goalkeeper when they were able to cut out the attack, but situations as well where what were they doing when that ball got deflected? Or what were they doing when that ball, was won by the defender? The center back actually won it instead of them having to come out and to make an interception. So I think that's really, really important too, is really watching the whole play of situations that weren't successful, but at the same time, too, ones that they didn't have to do much.
By the way, I would say that we would bring up that clip right now, but that is a Pro GK Academy premium. It's premium content. So so unfortunately, we cannot give that away for free.
Just visualize. I've gotten better at speaking it so that when people can hear it, they go, that's better than the game. I love it.
No, it's a good point. If I could jump in real quick, just about like the micro movements and with Ederson especially, like when you watch him, his feet are rarely like shoulder to shoulder width apart on the same line, unless it's a shot coming in. Yeah, it's always one in front of the other, and making sure that he's ready to go. And like those little things of milliseconds when he doesn't have to then switch his feet to there, he's already there, and then he can go. I think it makes the world of difference.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I think of Ederson, I didn't even recognize that, because when I think of Ederson, I think of big movements. I think of explosive movements. I think of him, I don't want to say out of control, but a little bit more dynamic as opposed to what's the word I'm looking for? The energy. You know what I'm talking about, when the energy is like all inside your body and it's like condensed energy, right? I don't think of that. So I really want to go back and see that. I want to talk about this with you, JT, is that when you take big movements, how much, especially for youth keepers, how much do they not understand that they're telegraphing what's going to happen? Essentially, the players are now manipulating the goalkeeper into what they want the goalkeeper to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point of trying to make sure you stay in control of the play, and making sure you're not the one reacting to what the attacker does. Obviously, if he takes a touch a certain way, then you have to move your body, but making sure that you don't overcorrect that movement to then try to cover for, I mean, the kind of the play that we brought up in the very beginning of covering your near post. So if you take a huge cross step and try to get across the goal too quickly, and then you're out of position too far, like you've made too much of a movement, and it's just, you always try to maintain that like you're driving the play, you're the one driving the car, rather than the attacker forcing you to do things that you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. It's a chess match. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why those scouting reports are so important, because again, it's an educated decision. You understand what Lukaku, what Messi, what they're going to do. We're bringing it full circle now. What they're going to do because you have an understanding of what you've seen on film. I think that is it's just so important to go into a game with as much information as you possibly can. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but at least you have an idea of what the tendencies are.
Yeah, I'm assuming, JT, obviously at your level, that the scouting reports really, really dictate, and I'm sure you're working on it throughout the week, with all the players there, and replicating, specific scenarios that you might see in the game based on the scouting reports that you have and everything like that, are going to kind of dictate how you move once you get into those scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, our coaches do a great job of breaking down the film and then working on different strategies or ideas that might happen in the game. Obviously, they don't know for sure. We could have 3 ideas before we go into the match, and then 5 minutes in, they're playing a completely different formation or completely different style, and then you kind of have to adjust on the fly. But at the end of the day, players play a certain way, and our coaches do a great job of making sure that we're very aware of their trends and their kind of consistent movements.
Yeah, I think that one thing I want to talk about when you were just saying in regards to movements, I want to talk about balance and core strength, because we haven't even touched on that yet. I think one of the reasons why a lot of kids, and Omar, I'm sure you can attest to this as well, since you work with 9-year-olds now, got two of them now, is they're not in control of their bodies though, but they're not in control of their bodies, and how just having core strength and having that discipline of the body to have those stabilizer muscles conditioned in a way where they don't, if you go like this, you don't end up going like that, because your body can't just maintain this. Does that make any sense to anybody, or am I just doing weird movements and gyrating in the chair right now? So.
Honestly, I don't want to say it, but those are some weird movements, dude. What's going on? What is happening?
I don't know. I was trying to show like what the difference between like this and that,
You
like,
need yourself to
I hear
you.
I hear you. And I think so much of goalkeeping is that core strength, and is that, because that's what controls, where your body will go based on like a step or a certain direction that let's say your legs take, and your body or your upper body isn't just falling all over the place. And it's that balance, and it's maintaining kind of that forward lean and that athletic position to make sure that you're not on your heels. To bring up what Omar was saying about Lloris, and if you retreat and you go on your heels, like, you're always going to fall backwards. So like that save that you make, let's say you get a hand on it, but if you're falling backwards, it still might go in. And in certain scenarios, you can't help it. But if you consistently tell yourself, okay, let's try to maintain that balance and maintain that forward lean, then you're going to start to tip balls around the post at before we're going in, or you're going to start making a movement at a 45-degree angle compared to a 15-degree angle, which then will help you save the ball. And it's just, I think with goalkeeping, and everything is a factor. Your strength, your core strength, your leg strength, your explosive work, it all comes into play, because at the end of the day, we're making 2 to 6 actions a game. So it's crazy when you think about it, because it's not like you put in hours and hours and hours of work, and then maybe in some games it's one shot and it's in the 80th minute, tied 0-0, and you have to make the save. It's just, I think we've said this before, but goalkeeping's 90% mental and 10% physical for me. It's making sure that you stay sharp, and your mind kind of controls so much of what your body does.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so difficult for youth keepers. I know Omar had difficulty not focusing on the ice cream truck when he was 9 years old. Like that was
if this is a what's it called? People aren't like normal listeners, and they're tuning in for the first time. Hearing that, they're probably like, "Damn, this guy's a jerk." We just made a fat joke to Omar. No, but I definitely. But yeah, like JT said, it's the movements and the micro movements. As long as you're locked in and you're really, really focusing on the play developing, not even in your own third, but in their defensive third. If you're tuned in there, your positioning will follow suit.
JT, will it make it easier for young keepers if they start trying to compartmentalize, their movements based on, I think one of the biggest mistakes with young keepers when you're talking about 11, 12 years old and they first get in that massive, big goal. Because I remember when I first got in the first big goal, and I was like, this thing is, there's no way I can cover this entire thing. I think I have to literally jump across the goal in order to be able to make a save. Is if we just start breaking it down and just, letting them do like this is compartment 1, compartment 2, compartment 3, compartment 4. And even at your level, if you think of it from that type of grid standpoint of like where's the service coming from? Is it area 1, area 2, area 3, going to make it that much easier for you?
Yeah. And I think so. I think if it's the way I was kind of brought up on was like first goal, second goal, third goal. So the first goal, you're that angle, the second goal is in the middle, third goal is that far post kind of cross. that you have to run all the way through. But also I think the movements, like the little steps that you can get in during those things. I mean, a perfect example is 2 nights ago with Andre Blake's save on that free kick late in the game. You know, you could see it was 1-2, then you dive. I think if he just tried to make a big old step and then dove, I don't know if, I mean, knowing him and his athleticism, like he probably could have, but his ability to take those short, quick steps just put him in a perfect position to make the save and tip it over.
I think that's the evolution of Andre Blake, to be honest with you. I think he's had a phenomenal season. I mean, absolutely phenomenal season, and I think maybe a few years ago, even the goalkeeper of the year, Andre Blake, might have gone that one step. But, now that progression and that development and I don't want to say the maturation of Andre Blake, because he's always been a high level goalkeeper, but just, learning how to make things simple, showcases like, when you, just because you have that ability doesn't necessarily mean that you need to pull that out. You want to make the situation as simple as possible, and I'm sure Andre would attest for that if he was on right now. I'm hoping that he takes this in a positive manner. I don't want Trey to be upset.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's been a absolute stalwart for them, and he's been great all year. I mean, the saves that he's been making and decisions that he's made has been fantastic.
Yeah. Omar, did you post that one?
The free kick? No, I didn't. I think everybody in the community had posted about it, so I didn't want to be late to the party. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll just wait on it. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, awesome, guys. I know we've been going for a while right here, and JT, I appreciate you, dealing with the Wi-Fi issues.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's
no, dude,
my end.
It's all good. The thing is that, like, you're in Silicon Valley. You would think out of all places, dude, the Wi-Fi would be literally like you could 4K stream a movie right now on your Wi-Fi. You would think. You would think. But, oh man, I'm gonna blame it on the fires. It's all the fires. That's what's been doing it.
It's all right. We'll adjust it. We'll move on.
But before we go, if you just have like any just small little board of advice that you would want to give like a youth keeper who's having trouble, making these micro movements and just keep catching themselves, getting scored on, still moving. Like, what would be like your just kind of clear, concise, and direct CCD, like I like to say, Omar, word of advice to them?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing is just if you have the ability to watch yourself train. So whether it be just setting up a video camera, setting up a camera during games, to look back and see, okay, this is what I did here, and here. Okay, how can I improve that? And then let's say you play on the weekend, on Monday's training, let's go through and let's try to correct some things. Another thing, like we talked about in the beginning, is don't beat yourself up too much. I think, keepers make mistakes, young keepers make mistakes, old keepers make mistakes. It's going to happen. The hardest part of the position is that mistakes often lead to goals, and they're very noticeable. It's different if you're a striker and you miss a few easy shots here and there. But as a goalie, if you miss a few easy shots here and there, that means it's probably 3 or 4 goals against you. And that's the nature of the position. And I think for me, that's what makes it so fun. The pressure of dealing with those circumstances is what makes it worth it to me. And as a young goalie, I think it's just having the ability to learn from your mistakes and then take things on the chin and then move on from them.
Yeah. And I would ask Omar if he wanted to add on to that, but oh no, he's back. I thought it was just the ghost of Omar Zeenni for a second. Did you want to add on to that, or did you feel JT succinctly awarded?
Can you repeat the question so I know exactly the words?
I just basically said it was very clear, concise, and direct, Omar. It was just words of advice to a kid that's getting caught moving consistently and getting scored on over and over again. So.
No, I think what JT said is right on point about watching film on yourself. Film, again, it helps you answer questions that you may have. And I think a lot of us, we're so dependent on somebody else's opinion because, I mean, I'll use myself as well as that sometimes I like to use other people's opinions so that if I use their advice and it doesn't work, that justifies why I wasn't successful at it, if that makes sense. So I think a lot of times when you have young kids who are being fed literal things about goalkeeping and they don't have the autonomy to think for themselves, they grow this opinion about things of like, coach told me to do it. It didn't work. It's not my fault. So they kind of throw blame. And I feel like when you start watching film, you become accountable. And I think once you become accountable, there's no way of hiding, because like there's only so many times you can lie to yourself. You're going to watch it a few times and you'll be like, whoa, I keep jumping there. Damn, okay, that's me. No one else told me to do that. And then you keep watching, you're like, okay, I'm still doing it. Well, okay, no one's telling me to do this. I got to make sure I get it right. So you really start understanding yourself on a deeper level. And when you watch the film, because you can't lie to yourself, and then you're accountable to yourself. And when you're accountable to yourself, you're going to I feel like you're going to really start getting to know what you're made of. But at the same time, you're going to find a lot more solutions because now you're dependent on yourself, not other people. So what I would say is film is super important so that you're accountable to yourself and not taking everything literally from your coaches.
You brought up a really good point right there, Omar, in regards to, taking accountability. And I know, I'm adding on to this right here, but I've had kids, well, I don't want to name anybody or whatever, but like, I'll be like, well, why didn't you bring your camera? And they keep forgetting to bring their camera. Or like, oh yeah, well, I'll film next time. And I think a lot of it might just be because like mentally, JT, like they don't want to admit that they're wrong or that there's fault. And if they don't film it, then they don't have to admit that to themselves. They can just blame it on this or that or whatever, or like, well, I just think I don't think that's what I'm doing or whatever, and I think that's just a huge issue that we just have in our society in regards to youth players really need to understand, I don't want, 9-year-old Omar, telling him like, based on the scouting report, they're going to say, this. So I want you to take accountability for that. But at the same time, you need to be honest with yourself. Like you were even talking about just that hopping situation. I thought that was a little harsh on you, but I still think, all right, guys, we'll start wrapping up here. JT, first off, honestly, congrats on all the success, man. It's been awesome to see.
Thank you.
And hopefully, the national team stuff, comes back. Any word yet on camps or anything like that? Is that stuff?
Nothing yet.
Yeah.
So kind of playing it by ear, and hopefully things work out, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys got a playoff push right now. Should be your number one focus. And anyway, so Omar,
Exactly.
what are the playoffs like, Omar? Do you know what the playoffs are like?
Yeah, it's been a few years. But just like the Lakers, we're at it for almost like a decade, and now we came back, and I think that's what's going to happen to the Galaxy when Chris Paul gets fired. Sorry, if Chris hears this.
Oh well,
Anywho.
I was gonna reach out to Dan Kennedy to come on the show, but that may not be the best choice anymore.
Dan's doing a good job on Spectrum, man. I like his analysis. So I think he'll come on for goalkeeping stuff. It's just so funny, he does the not the play-by-play, but they come to halftime, and when they talk about the field player stuff, you can tell he's still getting comfortable with it. And then they started asking him about, I think it was about Klinsmann, and you could see his tone change up completely. He's just like, he just knows what he's gonna say, so precise. And it's just like, damn, he really knocked that out of the park. So he's getting better at the field player stuff, with the goalkeeping stuff. It was just so second nature, and I sat there, I was like, damn, that's fire. I loved it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Dan's awesome.
Yeah, he really is.
When I contact Dan, I'm definitely going to show him that clip right there of what you said right there. He's still getting comfortable with the field player stuff. JT, if anybody out there, again, one of the cool things is that, you're a young up and coming pro goalkeeper in the game right now. Crazy humble. I don't think a lot of people recognize how humble you are for the level that you're at. Where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yeah, you can just hit me up on Instagram. I think my handle is just JT Marcinkowski, and then Twitter is the same. So I think Twitter is JT_Marcinkowski. So
he does respond. I'll tell you that, guy. So if he doesn't respond to you, contact me and I'll forward your message. All right?
Yeah, for sure.
If Omar sees it, Omar, dude, you have 100,000 people that message you every day.
I get it. And the worst part is that I leave messages on my stories, and I've been posting a lot of like little highlights on there now. And people are like, oh my God, people are like, oh, you're showing this. What about Pickford tackling Van Dijk? All these Liverpool fans like got in my DMs. I'm like, what? I'm just talking about goalkeeping. I'm not talking about anything else. Just leave that to the side, guys.
Oh,
it's not my job.
Yeah, it's not my job. I can't comment on that.
No, the social media people, man, they're on another level. Like they'll comment on something and you're like, wait, that has nothing to do with what this clip was. Like, why are you even bringing this up right now? Or they'll say like Ray-Ban sunglasses for 99 cents. Like, and I'm like, I don't think this has anything to do with the topic whatsoever. Guys, remember, if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18 media.com or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. That is all the time on Inside the 18. And we are out. Later, guys.
Yeah!